how long would I recommend you guys take on each passage? That's a great question. So if you need a blanket statement and just like the broadest, laziest answer is 6 minutes. But in reality, there are 3 styles of passage, and I'm sure you guys have heard this from other people or other resources. Some people call them data passages, experimental passages, and then the conflicting viewpoints, or I know it as the fighting scientist. And so the reason why I have to point this out is because if you want like an accurate answer of like how to time yourself, it depends on what kind of a passage you're looking at. And so right now we have passage 6, and because they refer to these different experiments 1, 2, and 3, we would call that an experimental passage. If they ever have experiment numbers or study numbers, those are always experimental passages. And if you have something like this, which is just a massive fat wall of text, this is the conflicting viewpoints or the fighting scientist passage. And then anything else that looks really simple and pretty bland, like the one we just came from, which usually has like 1 or 2 figures, not multiple experiments, that would be a data passage. The reason why I point this out is because everyone should have its own individual timing. You should probably write this down. If you have a data passage, the ideal time to finish that, this will eventually stop being blurry, is 5 minutes. If you have an experimental passage, the ideal time for that is 6 minutes. And for the fighting scientist or conflicting viewpoints passage, that is 7 minutes. The reason why we pick these numbers is because on any given test, there's going to be 2 data passages, 3 experimentals, and usually only 1 fighting scientist, which adds up to be 10 minutes, 18 minutes, 7 minutes, or exactly 35 minutes. This is just a general guide. The faster you can move, the better off you are. As you get really good at implementing this marking strategy and learning how to tease apart parts of information that's important versus what's not important, you will naturally go faster. Most of you guys are probably going to try this tomorrow, and you're probably going to not be very good at it. You might feel slow. You might be like, this didn't work at all. You have to practice it. You have to learn how it works. 95% of the students, I show this to everybody. And so if you implement these strategies, I promise you, you will improve. I had a second session with a student today where we talked about the science section in depth like this, the same information I'm giving to you guys. And in one session, his score hopped by like 9 points. Now, he was 10 minutes slow, so it's kind of like not fair, but learning how to implement these strategies will instantly make you more accurate because you're not missing all the important details. Someone beforehand said they got bogged down with all the sciencey terms. You quit caring about that. Like, I literally read words that I can't pronounce and I just make up words for them. I don't care what it actually says or what it means. So when you change the way you approach this, when you change the way that you think about the passage, your life is going to become substantially easier, but you have to practice it. And so as you practice them, you will naturally get faster. These are some generic timelines that I would recommend for most people. In a perfect world, you want to get to the point where you can actually shave 30 seconds off of each of these. That would be pretty ideal. If you can shave 30 seconds off of each of these, that'll give you 3 minutes to come back to the end of the test and figure out whether or not you feel comfortable with it. Or if you're like me, I'm a pretty slow reader and writer. So this passage, The Fighting Scientist, takes me a little bit longer. So if you can shave off time on the other passages, well, then you'll have more time for the fighting scientists or conflicting viewpoints.